Hello! Yes! Yes, 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 yes! And welcome to our Objective 7 notes. Gosh, it's good to be back with you guys. Objective 7. I can solve a literal equation for a given variable or quantity. Literal equation is a new term. We probably haven't dealt with it so much. You guys probably refer to them as formulas. And literal equations are just an equation where variables represent known values, right? So basically this objective is all about solving equations for specific variables in those equations. So looking at examples of literal equations here, we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, Pythagorean's theorem. We have the equation for the perimeter of a rectangle. We have rate equals distance over time equals mc squared, area of a triangle, slope intercept form. We have the slope formula there, area of a circle, circumference of a circle. So we have all of these equations, all of these formulas. This is going to be what we're working with, and we're going to be solving these for specific variables within them. Alright, so whenever we solve a literal equation, our goal is to isolate a single given variable. So looking at letter A here, oh goodness, there we go. Looking at letter A, solve the literal equation for the given variable. Be sure to show all your work. A says C equals 2 pi r, so this is the circumference of a circle. And we're going to solve for r. So the variable that we want to get all by itself is this r right there, okay? So the equation starts as c equals 2 pi r. How can we get r right here all by itself? Well, currently it's being multiplied by 2 and pi. So we need to undo that multiplication. What undoes multiplication? Division. So I divide by 2 pi. Whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other. When I do that, I get r equals c over 2 pi, and that's it. I'm done. I have isolated that variable r all by itself. Yeah, that's it. I promise. That's it. All right, looking at letter B, r equals d over t for d. So this for d is what tells me what variable I'm trying to get all by itself. So I'm trying to get this d all by itself. So looking at the equation, r equals d over t. Shout out to the RDT. Currently, d is being divided by t. So I need to undo that division. What undoes division? Multiplication. So I multiply both sides by t. When I do that, I get t times r equals d. That is the variable I want to get all by itself, d, right? So I would just say d equals rt. This is telling us that distance equals the rate times time. There we go. Very nice. All right. Let's do a few more together. Looking at letter C, E equals mc squared. For C, what just occurred? No, Google, not yet. E equals mc squared for C. So, looking at it here, I'm trying to get C all by itself, right? That's what that 4C tells me. So, E equals mc squared. I need to undo this m and I need to undo the squared. Now remember, we're doing the reverse order of operations here, so I'd start by dividing by m, divide by m, so that means e over m equals c squared. Now what undoes something being squared? Well, square rooting, so I got to square root both sides. Square root that, and I get now the square root of e over m equals c. Now I like to put the variable I'm solving for first, so I would say c equals the square root of e over m. There we go. We have solved that formula, that literal equation for c. All right. Letter D, a squared plus b squared equals c squared for b. Okay. Well, let's check this one here. Oops. Here we go. Yeah, popping up top, back to Pythagorean's theorem. Very good. A squared plus b squared equals c squared for b. I'm trying to get b all by itself. So if I have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, the first thing I need to do is I need to get this a squared to the other side. So I'm going to subtract a squared, b squared equals c squared minus a squared. Okay, Now to undo something being squared, I got to square root it. If I undo one side, you got to undo the other. So b will equal the square root of c squared minus a squared. Now that square root doesn't actually undo these things being squared. We'd have to square them, then subtract them, then square root them, following the order of operations. So if we had values, that's important to know. But for now, we're just going to call that good. There you go. B equals the square root of c squared minus a squared. Excellent. All right, let's look at letter E here. P1 V1 over T1 equals P2 V2 over T2 of course. Now, we want to solve for T2. Okay, well, that's this variable down in the denominator. So let's start. We have P1 V1 over T1 equals P2 V2 over T2. So let's start by getting T2, the variable we're trying to solve for, out of the denominator. Currently it's being divided. To undo that division, I would need to do multiplication on both sides. So I'm going to multiply both sides by T2. When I do that, I now have T2 times P1 times V1 over T1 equals P2 times V2. Because over here, those would divide out, right? All right. So now I need to get T2 all by itself, but it's being divided by T1, so I need to undo that division. So let's multiply both sides by T1. Multiply by T1. So on my left side, they divide out. I'd be left with T2 times P1 times V1 equals P2 times V2 times T1. So to get T2 all by itself, remember that's the variable I'm trying to isolate, it's currently being multiplied by P1 and V1. All right? So P1 and V1 would need to go away. If they're being multiplied, then I would need to divide. So I'll divide by P1 and V1. When I do that, I would find that T2 equals what I have over here. So I'd have P2, V2, T1 divided by P1, V1. There we go. And that is now isolated for T2. Very good. All right, let's try one more together. Letter F. E sub k equals 1/2 mv squared. So we're dealing with kinetic energy here. So if I have, and I'm solving for v, that variable v. So E sub k equals 1/2 mv squared. So to get v all by itself, first thing I would need to undo is this 1/2. So I could divide by 1/2, but dividing by 1/2 is really just the same as multiplying by 2. So I'm going to write that. It makes it a little nicer. When I do that, I have 2 E sub k equals m times v squared. So now I need to get rid of this m. Well, it's being multiplied. What undoes multiplication? Division. So divide both sides by m. And that tells me that 2e sub k divided by m equals v squared. All right. Now I need to get v all by itself. Currently it's being squared. What undoes something being squared? A square root, of course. So I square root this side, square root this side. When I do that, I would find that v equals the square root of 2e sub k over m. There we go, and that's my solution. All right, let me know how you're feeling. Raise your hand if you have any questions. Be happy to help and be happy to clarify anything. Otherwise, why don't you go ahead and try G and H on your own. Go ahead and pause the video, try G and H. We'll see how we do, all right? All right, let's check how we did here for letter G. So A equals L times W. So this is the formula for the area of a rectangle. To get L all by itself, we need to, currently it's being multiplied by W. We need to undo that. So we just divide by W, and we get A over W equals L. Now I like to put the variable first, so I'd say L equals A over W. And there we go. All right, looking at letter H, let's see how we did there. 8x plus 2y equals negative 14 for y. So I want to get y all by itself here. So I've got to start by subtracting 8x from both sides. When I do that, I get 2y equals negative 8x minus 14. Now to get y all by itself, I divide by 2. Now both of these things I can actually divide by 2, so let's do that. I'd get y equals negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. And negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. So y equals negative 4x minus 7. There we go. All right, how'd we do? If we're feeling good, let's move on. Why don't you go ahead and try letter J? All right, try J and K. Go ahead and try J and K. Pause this video and give those a shot. All right, let's check how we did here. So A equals 1/2 B times H, and we want to solve for H. We want to get H all by itself. So I need to undo this 1/2 and B. So to undo the 1/2, well, that's the same as multiply by 1/2 is the same as dividing by 2. So to undo dividing by 2, I need to multiply by 2. So I'll multiply both sides by 2. So I'll have 2A equals B times H. Now to undo that B times H, I need to divide by B. Divide by B, and that would tell me that H equals 2A over B. And that is H isolated all by itself. Very nice. All right, now looking at letter K, P equals F over A. Okay, so we got to get A all by itself. P equals F over A. Right now that A is in the denominator. Can't have it down there, so we got to move it up. So we got to multiply by A, multiply by A. That'll undo A on this side. So now we'll have A times P equals F. Now to get A all by itself, I need to undo this times P. So I divide by P, divide by P. When I do that, I would say that A equals F over P, which is our answer. All right. You have any questions on that one? Let me know. Happy to help. Otherwise, why don't you go ahead and try L and M. Go ahead and give L and M a shot. Pause the video, and then we'll see how we did on those. All right, let's check how we did here. So area equals pi times r squared, and we want to get r all by itself. So first thing I'd have to do is I got to get rid of this pi here. So I divide by pi, divide by pi. So I'd have a over pi equals r squared. Now, how do we do something that's being squared? Well, we square root. So I got to square root this side. So I would say that r equals the square root of a over pi. There you go. Look at that. Awesome. A over pi. Very good. All right, looking at letter M. Y equals 6x minus 8 for x. So we got to get x all by itself. Well, let's see here. Let's start by adding 8 to both sides. Add 8. So I'd have y plus 8 equals 6x. Now to get x all by itself, I'd have to divide by 6. Divide by 6. And I would find that x equals y plus 8 over 6. There we go. Excellent. How'd we do? Raise your hand if we had any struggles with that one. Otherwise, 2 more I want you to do. Why don't you go ahead and try N and P, and then pause the video, try N and P, and then we'll check those together, all right? All right, let's check how we did here for letter N. A equals 1/2 H times the quantity B1 plus B2. So this one's tricky if we're trying to get H all by itself. So A equals 1/2 H B1 plus B2. Now we know how to deal with this 1/2. To undo 1/2, I need to multiply both sides by 2. Multiply by 2. So now I have 2A equals 1/2, or sorry, no, we undid the 1/2. So I'm left with H times B1 plus B2. I think some of us might have thought because of these parentheses we need to distribute H, but remember H is what we're trying to get all by itself. So we want to get rid of all this other things. Now H is being multiplied times B1 and B2, so what undoes multiplication? Division. So the key here was instead of distributing, we actually divide by B1 plus B2 on both sides. So when I divide both sides by B1 plus B2, I would then get H equals 2A over the quantity B1 plus B2. And that would be my solution there. All right. Hoping we did good on that one. P, let's see, V equals L times W times H, so the volume of a rectangular prism. Not bad here. L times W times H. So if I want to get W all by itself, I need to undo the times L and times H, which means I need to divide by L and H. Divide by L and H. When I do that, I would get W equals V over LH. And that's it. All right, let me know how we're feeling on literal equations. Hopefully we're feeling good. We're going to do a quick Mastery Connect assessment, so go ahead and go to that. And then, yeah, let me know if we have any questions. I'll be around with some practice problems soon. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.